Hello and welcome to Thought Provoking Tech. I'm Zach, and this is Casual Friday. This is the first live Casual Friday that I'm doing. This is something I hope to continue and possibly make this into a podcast in the future. Probably not following with the Casual Friday name, but making it a full podcast in the future. That's just something I'm going to play around with. I might do like every other week. Live streams with Casual Friday just to kind of get in the habit of live streaming and get used to doing it, getting news articles together and everything along those lines, just having cool stuff to talk about. So without further delay, let's get started. So the first thing is actually really recent, but very cool. Google has some guys from Google have released information about a AI experiment that they did. Essentially, it was an AI experiment with three neural networks called Bob, Alice, and Eve. Don't know why they chose those names, but that's what they chose. Anyways, these neural networks, two of them, Bob and Alice, were given a shared key between the two to encrypt data. Eve was trying to intercept the communications between Bob and Alice and try to decipher what they are saying. So this experiment kind of analyzed over numerous runs, how two neural networks could create an encryption framework, while another one was also trying to listen in and trying to break that encryption. So essentially, what the experiment found is that Bob and Alice, the two that had the shared key, were able to communicate very clearly over time, while Eve had some luck decrypting these communications for a while until they became proficient, and then her ability to decipher these encrypted communications failed completely. So what this kind of is indicating is robots are very good about encrypting stuff, learning how to make really unique encryptions that only they can understand, that even other robots and humans will not be able to decipher. So what this means is that essentially Skynet will be able to talk to itself, and we won't be able to listen in. On a more serious note, it's pretty cool research, and it's kind of giving us an idea on kind of how these neural networks are kind of thinking and what kind of abilities that they will have in the future. So it's definitely something that is pretty fascinating, and I thought it was quite interesting. So hopefully it was interesting to you too. I'll go ahead and throw the link to that in the chat description, as well as the description in the archive video whenever that comes up. Beyond that, let's go ahead and move to the next article. All right, so this is an article from Business Insider, and the other one's from TechCrunch, if I did not mention that. I'll go ahead and post this link in the description or the chat. And this is about hijacking drones in flight. So essentially, instead of using a jamming software to attack drones and bring them down, essentially, what they're utilizing is a device that exploits the DMS-X, the radio signal protocol that most drones on the market use, letting the hijacker take control of the drones. So this is something that is going to be definitely coming to the forefront as drones become more and more popular. We're seeing lots of uses for drones, legit uses through farming, real estate, photography, and movie making with the drone cameras, and so on and so forth. I mean, the uses of drones in everyday life are rising, and I see in the near future that they'll be all around. Everybody will be using them. Farmers will be using them to analyze the crop health, to even keep track of livestock. You could use them as kind of security guard, if you have like a big mansion or something like that, that you have a lot of land to kind of keep track of. If you are kind of like a farmer with hunting ground, you could kind of just have them go out and do kind of a routine pass, and just check on your farm, see kind of what's going on, make sure a tree hasn't fallen down from the storm or something like that. So there's going to be a lot of uses for drones in the future, and stuff like this is going to be very important. That like encrypting the endpoint between the control mechanism, whether that's a controller in your hand or a central control system, that kind of is automating these drones for like crop surveying or real estate pictures taking, or however these are being controlled. But it's going to be important to have the 2 points encrypted, so that devices like this will not be possible. And I also see this as something that law enforcement agencies are probably going to start taking advantage of. I would guess, so that they could take down pesky drones that are not abiding to laws, such as the ones in California had a lot of issues with this in the wildfires. Drones getting into the ways of the helicopters and stuff trying to drop water on the fire, and they had to abort and go back and dump their payload rather than hitting where they needed to hit. So there are definitely two sides of this coin, where drones are going to be very useful, while there's also people that aren't utilizing drones correctly, and not adhering to the kind of guidelines put out, that are going to make devices like this push from the law enforcement side. So hopefully devices like this aren't abused, and that drone makers find a way to encrypt the 2 endpoints, so that devices like this aren't even possible. While I do see the good use of them from law enforcement, just having this in the hands of anyone is a very big negative. So it does need to be something that needs to be addressed in the near future. Here's a cool article from Popular Mechanics, who is being annoying and throwing an ad up in front of our review. Dropping this in the chat right now. So this is about transistors, and how a new type of transistor could let your devices run practically with no battery. So essentially, how transistors work is these transistors will work by basically on power leakage alone, much in the same way that a computer can go to sleep and maintain its state without drawing much power. So there's not a lot of details exactly how this works, but essentially it's supposed to be a massive improvement. It'll probably be a long time before we actually see these, but it'd be really awesome to have phones that last for just a week. Would be awesome. Some people even have troubles getting, if I'm using a hotspot or using very heavy video watching or something like that, my phone won't even last half a day. So it'd be awesome just, have that peace of mind that your battery's going to last for a full week, and that if you don't hit the charger every night, it's not going to be your phone's not going to be dead then, until you charge it up, and you're not going to be attached to a certain charge point. This will also be really cool for people that go to different events, and if they do a lot of recording or whatever. And as VR becomes more widespread, especially mobile VR, the longer lasting battery would be great for that. You can utilize the higher powered phone functions. We're getting kind of to that stage where phones could almost be docked. Windows is actually doing work in this, where your phone could be docked and become your computer. If you're not doing high-end stuff, it's kind of almost possible, but not quite to that point yet. But it would be something that, when we do reach that point, it'll be awesome to have your phone. You carry it around with you all the time. It's your kind of low-end desktop, unless you're doing stuff like Adobe or Autodesk or other similarly high processing, like 3D, like the AAA 3D games, stuff along those lines. As long as you're not doing stuff like that, this is your device that has all your information on it. It's tied to your email and everything. It's always with you. You don't have to have multiple devices, one at home, one at work. You just take this device with you everywhere you go. It always has what you need on it, and it's always going to be charged for you. You charge it once a week, and you're good for a whole nother week. One night, and you're good for the whole week. That'd just be awesome. And even if it doesn't turn out that awesome, hopefully maybe this will just allow them to last on a full day with heavy usage being used constantly throughout the day. Maybe driving multiple displays with Chrome open or something like that, which is if you're running videos off of that, running two displays with your phone hooked up to the dock. That'll be something that's going to be very important. And without tech like this, the concept is great, but if your phone only lasts 4 hours, when it's being heavily utilized as a kind of desktop replacement for low end uses, it's not going to be very practical. So, in other news, Tesla has posted profits again. I think this is the second quarter ever that they've posted profits. It tuned to the amount of 22 million for this quarter, which is pretty awesome. It's kind of showing that the Tesla brand is going to be viable. And I'm guessing this is partially fueled by a lot of pre-orders for the Model 3. And it could just be that their vehicles are becoming more efficient, especially as they're starting to output more with their new factories and everything starting to come online. So it's pretty cool. Right now, gasoline fuel is very cheap. But the work that Tesla is doing and other people working on electric cars is going to be something that's going to be very impactful in the future, especially as we kind of expand our horizons beyond just Earth, and we won't have access to these possible fossil fuels where we're going. So they're really doing very innovative work that is building the roads for the future. So it's really awesome to see them have profit and just enforce that they're going to be a company that is going to be able to make it and stick around and continue to release awesome products. One other thing is the Microsoft Surface Studio, if I can speak correctly. And I will copy that link and post it in the chat. So the Microsoft Surface Studio, it looks awesome. Sadly, it starts out at $3,000 for the low-end model, but it's very innovative. Apple actually had a press conference right after Microsoft, and I think Microsoft blew Apple away in kind of being the kind of changing roles where Microsoft is actually being the guys that are being really innovative now. They're doing really cool things with their radio dial. And as well as the entire studio product. It has very very large screen that has with the pen. It's going to be awesome for people that do digital drawing, as well as just being awesome for video editing. And essentially, if you use Adobe in general, this is probably going to be an awesome product for you. And then that price tag, if you're using Adobe, you're probably not going to. That price tag isn't going to, if it's for business purposes, its price tag isn't going to be as impactful. It's kind of going to be similar to buying the high-end Wacom tablet, if I'm saying that correctly. I usually read that, so I don't really know how that's actually pronounced, along in conjunction with a MacBook Pro. So if you kind of look at it that way, it's not really overpriced at all. It's actually pretty competitively priced. And especially for people kind of working in that field industry, they're more likely to spend a little more to have that performance power. Now, the only thing I'm kind of seeing is the lack of graphics power. So you're not going to be able to really render in 3D using a 3D engine. But I use Inventor a lot, and for some reason, Inventor's built-in rendering engine utilizes the CPU, not the GPU. I really haven't understood that yet because GPUs are kind of better in the past. I had used Maya. I don't have a license for it anymore, so I use Inventor pretty much exclusively anymore. But Maya had an option to render on 3D, and it's just so much, or with a GPU, and it's just so much faster. So just keep that in mind. You're not really going to be playing games on this. It's not really going to be a gaming device. How, However cool that would be to play a game on this massive screen with very high resolution, it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to do. One thing I did kind of miss was a Thunderbolt 3 port on this with the USB C. I would like to see that because that means you could plug in an external graphics card. If you could have an external graphics card with this device, it could do anything and it would be really awesome. And it would kind of give it some growth in the future to kind of expand upon that. Buy it now, throw on an external graphics card in the future once those become more widely available, and then you'll be set for quite a while. But in the end, it's a very cool device and something that I would love to play around with, but is way outside of the price range of the next computer I'm looking at. So it is definitely something cool though, especially if you kind of do a lot of digital drawing, working in Adobe in general, or even just like engineering work. I could see it just being useful just because of the screen's massive size, as well as the resolution that it packs, which is going to let you get a lot of detail on the screen. For example, it's larger than 4K, so you could edit 4K footage, and with like a Premiere and After Effects, they have all the toolbars and stuff along the side. You'll almost be able to edit in full resolution, but not quite full resolution, but closer. You know, you're not going to be editing on a little bitty low resolution monitor and have it at like a quarter resolution. So it's going to be something that's going to really let you get your work done. And I kind of like where Apple or Microsoft is going, and I'm kind of wondering what Apple's response is going to be. They had a little interactive touch bar, which is kind of like replacing the function keys on a standard keyboard. It's definitely cool. It's definitely more useful than the function keys, which are very static, and you don't really know based on the insight what those function keys might do in a certain app. And you can the way that it can also change to be string together a whole certain area to kind of control the audio of a certain clip or something like that could be very useful. One thing that Apple said they didn't want people doing with it though is streaming text on it. I think it'd be really awesome to have like notifications just pop up along there. That way, if I get a notification icon, well, this is in Windows, not really an Apple, but I know like in the notification bar, it'll pop up in the right for a little while. But if I'm engaged in what I'm doing, if I'm designing something or working on something in Adobe or Autodesk, I might not always look over there, so then I had to open that little bar up. If I could just glance down real quick and get the full detail of it, because that little pop up doesn't always show everything, so it's not really all that useful. Anyways, especially if it's something longer. So if you have like your messages come up there and just be displayed in a quick manner, or if you're in a program that you don't like the utilization of the bar there, you could have it display like kind of like a stock ticker or something like that. I just see that being like just a very cool feature, but Apple said they didn't want like text being streamed across there. So it's something I don't really understand, and the moment I heard about it, I thought that would just be a cool feature of it. While I have the web browser up or something, just have the stock prices that I have set up in my Apple account just be ticking across there, and other things like news flashes and stuff along those lines. So that's pretty much it. I did want to mention that MZ is now out of beta. I did a video on this in the past called "What is MZ?" And it was it kind of explained what MZ is. But MZ is a community-based social media network where all your interactions are you join a community. So, for example, you can join /Twitch, and it's kind of in the same general ideal as like a subreddit, and that's how you interact. All your communities are somewhat like a subreddit, but it's a very community-focused social media network, meaning that the communities are kind of put at the forefront, whereas other social media sites don't really have that focus on community. So it's kind of going to be one where harassment is not allowed. So it should be a nice place to communicate with others, work collaboratively with others, and just be a community that's just a fun place to be around. without some of the downsides of other social media networks on the internet. In addition, I would just want to draw some attention that we do have a Discord account. If you would like to kind of just keep up to date and chat with me and other people from the Thought Provoking Tech, I do recommend that you join our Discord server. I have a couple different groups set up for different topics and stuff. So it would just be a place to kind of talk with other members of Thought Provoking Tech, and just a fun place to hang out. So that's pretty much for this live stream. Thanks for everyone that watches this, and until next time, thank you for watching.